I'm not against the education system, and it's strange to me when people say they are. Ironically, those who say school is whack or whatever seem to be those who need to go to school the most. However, I do have a strong critique of the education system that I think motivates people to even say that, or rather, I think it's completely counterproductive to people staying focused in school. Understand this and always take this with you because it has helped me not be so hard on myself for my mistakes and failures. Always keep in mind that, look, whatever you believe in, if you're wrong, life will teach you that you're wrong. But if you're right, you will get rewarded. So like if I made a mistake or failed at something, eventually I'll learn that I was wrong. Life is just going to, life is going to end up showing me that. But eventually too. But if I get rewarded, then I was right this whole time. That mentality is exactly what school should be teaching. School teaches that failure or mistakes are bad based on a fixed mindset. Oh, you got low grades? You must be lacking some sort of ability, bro. And those low grades, man, I don't know, I don't know what's wrong with your intellect, man. You might be a low intelligence person. Like, that's actually bizarre to me. When I was in high school, it was easy for me, like very easy, to absorb math, physics, and other, should I say algorithm type of topics? Because I spent my teenager years coding. So algorithm was easy for me to follow. However, things that weren't like social studies, history, or whatever, those were the worst for me. And I remember my senior year of high school, my history teacher was giving people a hard time if they were failing his quizzes or didn't know these, like this random trivia about historical events. And the way he spoke to us, it made us feel. It felt like I was being scolded for not being capable to do things. Like, and some people are the opposite, right? Some people are really bad at math, physics, and other algorithm-like subjects, but they're amazing at history and other subjects. And see, I can't wrap my head around that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but some people can't wrap their head around math and physics. But you see what I mean about this fixed mindset. Low grades shouldn't just be a simple indicator that someone lacks an ability. It should be a sign that a different strategy should be taken. This is why I'm mentioning mistakes and failures are a learning experience. Oh, I was wrong. I was messed up. Okay, so why did my strategy fail? The current education system, and like I mentioned about my history teacher, for example, when you get bad grades, it's more shameful than the teaching moment for you. Am I lying? It's like, dang, man, look at this piece of paper right here. Why she got to circle it for twice? I got a 12 out of 100 on this quiz. Oh no, I misread that. I'm sorry. I'm bad at math, bro. I'm bad. I have poor reading skills. I got a 3 out of 100 on this quiz. Oh man. Oh well. Why does it matter? I'm saying my grades are good already. I just kind of wasn't here this day. And, we're moving to the next topic after this class anyway. Like this test was on variables in algebra. Next class, we're going to start inequalities in algebra. So, I'll lock in when I get to inequalities. Hello? Like, you see what just happened there? What did you even learn? What did you even learn besides I could just, I could just bypass. Like, you felt shame that you failed and that's it. That's it. It's like, and this is how you start getting lazy too. And you need, hello, why did you feel that? What was difficult about variables that made you struggle to absorb a topic? Or here's another thing. Did you just not do the work or pay attention for this topic? That's another issue. I mean, clearly the subject isn't resonating with you, right? But you need to do this, right? So you just not doing the work or whatever, you're trying to absorb the topic. Like that 3 out of 100 on that quiz should have taught you something about your approach. But most people don't think about that. It's just, I failed. And people do this too, where they fail and then they blame the subject or blame the teacher or blame XYZ rather than understand what wasn't working for you to absorb the topic. And this is probably going to make some people upset, but I'm going to be for real. You can't just blame the teacher. You can't just blame the subject either or blame everything else on the world, okay? Look, I've had terrible teachers in the past. When I was in school, classes were terrible. I had teachers who couldn't control the students. Everyone was acting wild in the class, you know what I'm saying? No, I remember people were throwing hands, you know what I'm saying? Listen, but nobody was respecting the teacher. And I never thought it was their fault if I ever did bad in their class or I got a bad test grade or something. You know why? Because we always got homework. We couldn't get anything done in class because people are acting goofy, so we had homework. And the homework I had to teach myself. And see, notice what I just said. I learned about myself this simple thing when I was like 12 years old. I am not a good student. I cannot be taught if someone is lecturing me. I'm a hands-on type of person where the way I learn is that I need to teach myself, or I need to do a worksheet or do homework. I would not pay attention in class. I was more entertained by people acting goofy in class. But I made sure I did my homework because that was the strategy that I needed to learn. When teachers didn't give homework, my grades were a lot worse in those classes because opening up a textbook and reading stuff wasn't a viable strategy for me to learn because I felt like I'm being lectured by a book, and that's not fun. But see, some people, they can't do that. They're not good at teaching themselves. So their strategy needs to be different than mine. And whatever strategy works for you is what you need to discover. Like, you can't just you can't rely on other people. That's the point here. You can't rely on this teacher who probably maybe doesn't even want to be there, you know what I'm saying, is like dealing through whatever they're dealing through because the students are acting crazy in class. Like, oh, like what are you gonna do about that? Like, you got to do something if you at least care about your grades, or you want something good to happen, or you're trying to build a good GPA or whatever. Like, look, everyone has a different learning strategy. And this is the point I want to make here, because I'm like digressing from that. The education system not only does not help students understand their learning strategy, but grades are simply the verdict. You are a student who is judged by your ability, not by your strategy. If you're an active learner like I am, sitting in a 2-hour lecture in class is not fun to me. I'm wasting my time. I don't even want to be here. Like, you know what I'm saying? I will absorb very little because I don't want to be here. And I'm being lectured here. I don't like it. It's passive learning to me. Passive learning is not for me. But if you give me something to work on, if you give me some instructions, just give me a moment, all right? And I'll figure it out. But you see how the education system will treat someone like myself? I'm just automatically dumb because I can't pay attention in class, or my mind is wandering off, or I don't care, or they'll say I have some attention thingy going on with my brain, right? Because dude, how about I just don't care? Why do we have to turn this to some neurological, psychological, what if I just don't care? How about that? It could really be that black and white. I just don't care. I'm not interested. I don't like it when this person's lecturing me. I don't know. I just don't. First of all, I could just have anxiety being in class with a bunch of people, okay? That's another thing. So, there's so many different other factors besides this. But, look, here's the thing, too. This just isn't my way of learning, and this happens to other people. They get called dumb or lazy because they pay attention in class. I've seen this too. They pay attention in class, but they don't do any of the active work. They don't do any of the homework. They don't do any of the projects. They don't do any work. The only thing they'll do is they'll raise their hand a million times and that'll be it. You know what I'm saying? Or they'll lock in while the teacher's talking. They're quiet and dude, this is the thing again with their strategy. So what do they need to change? If you're that type of person, by the way, who can't do any active work, but you're a great passive listener, what do you need to change? Or what strategy do you need to alter here where it will allow you to do active stuff? So as an active learner, what I do, right? I'm not in school anymore. So how about this, right? When I'm in a Zoom meeting or I'm listening to an audiobook, I either do two things, and it's weird, but it works for me, right? Because again, I'm not a passive learner. I don't like when people lecture me, but if I'm getting it through a Zoom or an audiobook, here's how I'll do it. I'll literally pause the audiobook, right? And I'll start talking to myself. I'll literally re-explain what I just learned in the book. It's almost like I'm doing a YouTube video. I'll vent in my room about this concept or ideology that I find very profound. But if I can't do that, if I'm in public or I'm with someone else, right? I'm not going to start ranting to myself while I'm with someone else, right? Or if I'm on a Zoom meeting, I'll write notes down, but I will never copy exactly what someone puts on that PowerPoint or on the board or what they say during the meeting. Unless it's an important date or a number or something, right? What I'll write down is my own version of those notes for me to better understand. Maybe even I'll say this, I'll write down my own interpretation of what this person's talking about. So it helps me better understand what's going on. I wish I knew how to do that. I had that strategy when I was in high school, especially that history class or any subjects that I was struggling with, because I just realized how much better it was for me to actually memorize stuff now because, oh, so this thing happened in history, and whatever this teacher wrote on the chalkboard is boring, but the way that I'm articulating it is way easier for me to understand now. It's just change up the strategy. But I wouldn't say the school system or education system is bad and a waste of time. I wouldn't say it's whack. It's just, it's very linear and is an assumption that everyone learns the same. And, what happens is if you don't learn the same, right? And it's very clear, like it's so bad that you just like, you get put in special classes. Let's just say that because you don't learn the same, right? Which again, that's shameful. Hey, when I was in school, if you were in special classes, people were roasting you daily. Like people will walk past that classroom and start knocking on the door and start like, people were bugging out. Like it's shameful. I don't know if any of y'all watching who are in like special classes, hey, they be treating y'all like, like, hey, put on this helmet, bro. Like, yo, you need, what's going on? Why are you leaning like that? You want some elbow pads? Like, what do you, like they really treat you is wild. And this, there has to be a way to integrate this without pure separation. Or maybe if I were to redo like the education system, maybe the system should be separated from the jump, where you're not put in a quote special class. You're a visual learner, for example. So you get put with the visual learners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. Love you guys. I'm out.